Look at what you give time to. And so when children get no time from parents, and that's what they need from parents, children need time, attention, and direction. When children get no time, then they get it that they're not loved. They're worth less than the parent's time. So you could have a daddy there who isn't there. He's there, but he's kind of a shadowy figure in the family. He goes to his room, he goes in the living room, drinks beer, watches TV, but nobody gets to talk to him. Never shows any emotion. There's never any bonding with him. That's abandonment for a child. Our mother's there, but she's always hovering over you and basically using you for her loneliness and her needs. It's her anxiety that she's trying to slake. Like I saw a woman at a school the other day, and this little boy was about 7 years old, and she was interrogating him like this. She said, "Well, who did you miss the most today? Who did you think, how many times did you think about me today? Who do you love more than anyone in the world? Who do you want to be?" And it was all, about her. And I thought, my gosh, this is one of the neediest people I've ever seen. This poor little boy is being set up to take care of this mother. And I can tell you, when I look at my files, the number of little boys that were put in bed every night with a needy mother. See, there's nobody there for that child. Children need somebody to mirror, to look at them, to be there for them. What we all needed in the first 3 years of life was unconditional love. You needed a mirror that no matter what you did, the mirror was there. That's why you got to be so healthy to do this. I'm 54 now. I'm ready to have a kid. But 22, I don't even know who I am. I think God got this one wrong. I'm not sure about that, but please, God, just kidding. But it seems like it. We get older and more mature, and we get a little financial security. Now we're ready to have a child. But there you are, 19, 20, 21, 22. My mom and dad were 18 and 19. Bless their hearts. They did the best they knew how to do. And so did your parents. But they was a lot they didn't know to do. They were working on their own stuff. Any form of abuse will shame a child. Sexual abuse is the most shaming of all. And remember, in the series and in my book, what I'm trying to show people is that sexual abuse is much more rampant than we understand. That we're now understanding that the horror story kind of sexual abuse is like 1 in 100. And when people think of incest, what they think of is the stuff that hits the newspapers. I can give you file after file of people who've been incested. And when we get statistics like 60 million victims of sexual abuse in the United States right now, 34 million women are grown-up women are the victims of incest. We have an enormous problem here. And it is the most highly shaming. It's a setup for a lot of sexual acting out to have been incested. It's a setup for eating disorders. One of the biggest setups for eating disorders is incest. I will never look at a person overweight again in the same way. Not after the work that I've done. Because what I know is that one of the ways that often people try to compensate for having been violated sexually is to put a boundary around them so that nobody can get to them sexually. A boundary sometimes so strong that they don't even have any genitals anymore. It's like a protection. Then the other side of being incested is acting it out. Just going through one seductive relationship after another, being used by somebody and left. And so a lot of people have incest issues. They're around, daddy was voyeuristic. Daddy was always staring at you. Daddy was making comments about your bottom or your top, or saying he wished he could have gone out with a girl like you or made it with you when he was little. See, these are totally inappropriate things. Or there's second-level sexual addiction in the family, walking around with nudity at an inappropriate age, or certain kinds of nudity where the parent is getting turned on. That's the criteria right there. The criteria is not nudity. It's, is the parent getting turned on by this? Is there some kind of secret turn-on going on? The kids are going to experience it. And I could show you file after file where this is the case. Inappropriate knowledge. The person doesn't know anything. They're bleeding and they don't know what's happening to them. I've had female clients who were in their 20s and they didn't even know they had an opening in their body and are in panic because one of them is engaged. See, these are incredible forms of abuse. Then physical abuse. The most common, there's no one in here that hadn't been physically abused, probably. I want you to think of something. We do not have one piece of data that is proven to us that knocking somebody around helps them. I want you to think about something. Suppose I'm your best friend and we're walking along one day and all of a sudden I slug you. Or grab you by the shoulder and pull you across the room. Or yank your arm out of the socket. Or tell you to go get a switch because I'm going to give you 10 swats. See, we think that those little people, that doesn't matter to them. Just like incest offenders often think they won't know. She's only 3 years old. We've seen little girls 3 years old in projectile vomiting. They don't even know what's happened to them, but their little bodies are vomiting. Because they're human beings. See, we keep thinking these are these little animals. We're in these rules that are 200 years out of date. They come from the time of kings. The rules we have come from the time of kings. They're not democratic rules. They're not rules that have flowed out of, 200, the fighting for democracy that we have done, social equality. They're rules that are master-slave rules. We still have these rules. Man catches his wife in an affair, he gets his gun, he's going to go shoot that guy. But if his wife is if the husband's having an affair and gets caught, we don't see the wife going to get her property back. She's going to blow that girl's head off. They do, but I'm just trying to give you an idea. I hope that's not the Holy Spirit or something calling me here. But anyway, no, that's not a message from somewhere. But anyway, the idea is that we've got these forms of abuse that haven't been examined, and they tend to be multi-generational. These forms of abuse tend to be multi-generational. That is, they'll go on from generation to generation because nobody will look at them. Nobody will stop and say, who has a study that can prove that it helps children's self-worth to knock them across the head or to pull their pants down and swat them? And I'm just telling you, there's not one iota of evidence to support that. There's not one iota of evidence to support that. So this is a very, very crucial kind of area. Then emotional abuse, screaming at children. I was a screamer in my family, and I got to I've got to own how bad that was for my family to rage and scream. And a lot of that was about my not having any boundaries. This is a mysterious phone. We don't know where it is. A lot of that was about my not having any boundaries. So I would be good guy daddy, let everybody walk all over me until I couldn't take it anymore. And then I'd go crazy. I also learned very early on that I couldn't have my anger. So when I felt angry, I was taught very early on that was one of the most serious, deadly sins. And so when I had anger, I found ways not to feel my anger or to pretend like I didn't have my anger. And so what I learned to do is be a nice guy. I learned to be passive-aggressive. I learned to be, like Terry Kellogg says, passive-aggressive is like a big St. Bernard dog licking your face and tinkling on you at the same time. And I learned to be those things. So you see, when I got married and I had children, I was this wonderful daddy. I was going to be Mr. Wonderful Daddy. And the kid would walk over my face, but I'm just too wonderful. See, and you don't get angry about that. And what I learned to do is to be a gunny sacker. And what you do when you gunny sack, you have this big gunny sack, and every time there's an injustice, you put one in your sack.